that was so hard. COVID almost ruined my life, and here's how. The first time I got COVID was when I was tutoring this little kid, and we were doing a little group session for 1 hour, and that was during probably the winter of 2020 or at the very beginning of 2021, when COVID has already gone down from its peak, but there were still a lot of people getting it. We were half in lockdown and half non-lockdown, and that's why we had this in-person tutoring session with, I believe, 3 or 4 kids. And one of them, or they got contracted with COVID when they went skiing the weekend before, or maybe that same weekend. And I remember a lot of people saying that when they go skiing, there's a lot of some sort of virus up there or something like that, but people just get COVID from others super easily when they ski or when they do some sort of like snow sports outdoors. The time when I fell sick, the other kids who were there kind of all got COVID as well, or at least 1 or 2 of them also got COVID from the kid who was already not feeling that well during the session. I began throwing up probably the second day of getting it. The first day it was like a cold and I started to get a fever, but the second day is when it really got bad. I remember I started throwing up probably from the morning till the afternoon, and by the time when I threw up 3 times and I tried to drink more water, I threw up the 4th time, but only with the water, nothing else in my system. And that's when I realized that like no matter what I eat or drink, I will always get so nauseous. And also I'm not the type of person who couldn't really like control my vomit, I guess. Like I have a good control over like when I vomit and when I don't. Also this topic is kind of gross, but even then, I was so incredibly nauseous, there's just no way to not throw it up, although I wanted water in my system, although I wanted to have some food in my system, I just couldn't hold it in. And after the 4th time, I had such a high fever and I was so exhausted with all those things, I decided to just lay there. For the next 24 hours, I did not eat any food, I did not drink any water, and there was one point where I was so tired that I couldn't even open my eyes, and when I did, I had to use so much effort to do it. I remember thinking to myself when I opened my eyes for 5 seconds and I had to close it again because I was too tired, and that's the amount of energy that I had left in my system. I remember thinking to myself, like, how did I even get to this point? I've never been more sick in my life than right now. And that was my first experience with COVID. After that day and after 24 hours, my body was forced to get better because there was nothing else left in my system. It could not have gotten worse than that during that period of time, and that's when I started to recover bit by bit. However, I took at least a week or 2 from that point on to fully recover, or at least I thought that I fully recovered. I headed to college soon after that, and ever since then, I got sick almost every single month for 6 to 8 months straight. And when I say that I get sick, I actually start to get a fever, I actually start to get a cold, and it becomes worse and worse as the days goes on, to the point where I could not continue to attend my classes anymore, and I could not actually leave my room. And that's when I'm forced to like stay in bed with a sore throat and a fever. And the fever also fluctuates a lot, like sometimes it just comes up out of nowhere in that month, and then I stay in bed for a day or 2 and miss all my classes, and then go to my school's health clinic, and then it starts to get better, and then the fever comes up again. And that was the main symptom, but I would also get a sore throat, sometimes I would throw up. For the next 6 to 8 months, I know that there were a lot of other variations and factors too, that can contribute to the fact that I was getting COVID that often. The major one was that I had a roommate whom I felt kind of psychologically unsafe staying with, but I had no choice because that was my rooming plan for that semester. I also recognized that I might not have had the most healthy lifestyle when I just entered college, and when I was getting used to an American school's food, and when I was like, I guess, not eating and sleeping super regularly. I wasn't really watching my caffeine intake, and as well as like all the hours that I stayed up for. All of these are factors, but also, who the fuck gets sick every single month? No one, except for me. Or yeah, there were a lot of people around the school getting sick from time to time, but I think I was getting sick the most often out of everyone else that I knew. After that, I told myself that I need to strengthen my immune system a lot, And there wasn't a point where I really felt like I was stronger because I never had the shittiest lifestyle, even when I didn't have the best ones. So throughout the entire time, I would still try to eat as healthy as possible. I would still go to the gym at least 2 to 3 times a week. But I think only after a long period of time did I stop getting sick monthly. And I would still get a lot of discomforts from time to time, but that's just because I know that I have a weak immune system in general, not just because of COVID. Oh, by the way, I never really got tested for COVID from that point on, because at that point COVID was so normalized in 2023. That's when I just didn't bother to get tested for COVID, because if you're sick, you just say that, you're sick and you have a cold, and it doesn't really matter that much. Fast forward to last month in September, it was 2 or 3 days before my 20th birthday. That's when I caught COVID again, and at first it did start with a sore throat. I woke up a morning and I just knew that shit was bad. I was also in close contact with at least 2 people who had COVID during that period of time. So I kind of knew that it might have came, but I just told myself that because I'm stronger and even healthier now, and I do try to take care of myself a lot, I thought that I would be at a lower risk than before. But I was not, and as usual, whenever there's some sort of flu or sickness going on, I was also one of the first people to get sick once again. No surprise. This time, before my 20th birthday, I woke up with a cold one morning when I knew that I had the sore throat, and I knew that shit was gonna go downhill from that point because I don't just recover from that slight sore throat. It always progressively gets worse. So I started staying in bed until the next day in the morning. I was feeling a little bit better, and I still did not do anything until around noon to like early afternoon. That's when I just had this feeling in my body that I felt so bad. It wasn't just that the fever was getting high. It wasn't just that I started to get this invisible feeling of like nauseousness. I just knew that I felt so bad, so terrible, with a horrible headache. And I just could not do anything at that point. So then I told people around me that I knew that things were getting bad, and I continued to lay in bed and I continued to rest. I actually, in the middle, the fire alarm in my building was also going off in this residence hall at the college. And so I actually had to force myself to get up and evacuate the building. At that point, I hadn't eaten anything all day long, so I forced myself to walk like 5 to 8 minutes to the dining hall, get some soup and get some solid food in and protein and all that shit, and then come back. I was feeling nauseous the entire time, but I still forced myself to eat food as usual, because that's what you try to do when you're sick and you just tell yourself that you need to get better. So afterwards, in the afternoon, I threw up twice, kind of consecutively, just within the span of 10 minutes. It was the same, I guess, degree of nauseousness as the first time that I got COVID. And then when it got to the third time, that's when I started to like throw up this liquid, or this like sour liquid that's in your stomach. I actually don't know what the medical term is, because there was no food in my body left, and that was the only thing that was still in my stomach. Shortly after that, or not shortly, but I decided to take a late afternoon nap because I was so weak and so sick. When the evening came, I had to put on my night lenses and continue to go to bed. So I got out of bed naturally and then went to the bathroom. That's when I started to get so nauseous and dizzy because I stood up, to the point where I had to just sit on the bathroom floor, and then a few minutes later I just could not control it, and then I just threw up in the toilet because I really had to. After that, I was still feeling incredibly dizzy from standing up, and I started to sweat so much to the point where I felt sweat in all these places in my body that I never knew could even sweat out of. Like, there was literally sweat everywhere, and I could feel it coming just out of my skin. And I'm not the type of person to sweat a lot. I'm not a sweaty human being usually. And I knew that shit was getting really, really bad from that point on, because all these very unusual and very severe symptoms were starting to show up. But I still wanted to be like mentally strong and, just get through the night by getting my night lenses in and going to sleep. So I stood up again, and that's when I started to get all this tingly sensation in my body, and the world started spinning a lot more than before. But luckily there was someone around me, so I was able to tell them that I think I might pass out soon. And then I sat back onto the toilet, and then a few seconds after that I lost consciousness. For context, I never fainted before. I never had a family history of this sort of stuff, and I never passed out in my life. But I did, and luckily there was someone to take care of me because I was with them. But I did not wake up until 2 minutes later. And what was going on in my head is that I thought I did not pass out. I thought that I was about to pass out. So, like, towards the end of me waking up, if that makes sense, like towards the end of that part, I was thinking that I heard this buzzing noise and sound in my head, and I was walking into this tunnel of darkness, or like this tunnel of darkness was getting closer and closer, and a lot of light was like flowing by, and it was like passing me to get to the back. And then I was about to enter complete darkness, and the buzzing noise was about to overpower my entire consciousness until I heard people calling my name to wake up. And that's the last second when I woke up. But actually, in reality, at that point, I had already been passed out for 2 minutes. After that point, I stayed sick for a few more days, and the symptoms would fluctuate a lot. As before, I would be feeling really good for the morning or for a part of the day until it gets a lot worse again, and then I have to lay in bed again. The sore throat also started to get better and then worsen again 4 to 5 days later on. And I was just struggling with these symptoms the entire time. I finally got better, and I finally thought that I was able to defeat the second time, or the second official time that I got COVID, until this month. Just around 6 days ago, or maybe 5 days ago, I started to get a sore throat once again, and I already knew what was coming, but luckily it was a lot better than the first or second time. But I just know that this is a side effect of COVID, because there's no other explanation as to why I'm getting sick so often, especially because I've been so extra with my self-care routines and how I take care of my body and everything. All the maintenance I do is for myself not to get sick, and I fucking get sick once again. This time it's just a cold, but I definitely think that it's, again, a side effect of COVID because it continues on for months. And it took a long time for me to recover this time. Once again, the main symptom that really bothers me is the sore throat, but also I have a clogged nose, and I'm not able to breathe well as some low fever sometimes, or I would just start to feel warm. But my hope for myself is that I don't get sick every single month this time, at least, because it's really affected my life severely in many ways, and it also makes me recognize even more the importance of keeping yourself healthy, because in the long term, being healthy is how you sustain any life goals or any wishes and any sort of things that you want to do. You need to sustain your body first, and your body and your health is truly the foundation of everything you want to accomplish in life, because without that, you're laying in this bed for a very long time, just like me. And so if you're watching this video and if you've gone COVID before, like, I want to hear your experience, because I know that people have all these varying beliefs and all these myths going on, as well as everyone sharing their experiences with COVID. Right now, I still haven't fully recovered yet, but I've already been feeling so much better. And being a student in college, it truly just does not allow me to stay in bed and pause my entire life for too long before I get back. And although I know that it's not optimal and ideal for recovery, I do just start trying to do or try to operate at my 50% or 70% as soon as I start to feel better, because that is what college requires, and not everyone is extremely understanding of your circumstances and situation, or even when they do, professors cannot make too many exceptions for you without a really convincing reason or without some really severe challenges going on. And that's why I do start to attend meetings or do my homework and all that stuff. As I said before, my wish for myself is that I don't get sick every single month for now, because that'll be a nightmare once again. Also, let me know if you have any tips and tricks for me to take extra care of myself, because I am truly trying so hard, but my body just doesn't appreciate that sometimes. Well, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.